Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Quiet on Set. My name is Kev, beside me is Stovey, and today we have two special guests, Patrick and Zoe, who have an interesting topic for us today that we don't actually quite know what.
Can't wait, it's going to be interesting.
And also I want to throw in here before they start, they have got a YouTube channel called What Do We Know. It's great, so subscribe and check it out.
Thanks for that, Kev. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about was the first podcast that you just put up was the top 10 of the year so far.
I know where you're going with this because we messed it up and the rating's all over the place.
Well, our top one is like, let's rate it from the bottom.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a response conversation to the top 10 because I listened through the whole thing again.
Oh,
and,
really? Because we haven't. We wish we could delete that one.
and took down. I was like, I have a few issues, to say the least.
Oh.
But we'll fire on through them anyway. So
this is the roast edition.
Yeah, pretty much.
we'll go through yours. I have my top 10 sorted out as well. Now, so when I did my top 10, I only did from January to June because that's when the podcast went up.
Baby Driver came out as well.
Yeah, I didn't include Baby Driver because it went
that
up before
would be
that
like
film came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baby Driver would be very high anyway. But right, so I'll start off. My number one of the year. Actually, no, we'll go from 10 up. Right, my number 10 was Jackie. Did you happen to see Jackie?
I really wanted to see it. I was devastated. Like, there was actually one when she came in and was like, can I get a ticket to Jackie? And it was like, devastatingly, we don't have Jackie.
Yeah.
I would go see it
Yeah.
if we had Jackie because it looks incredible. And
Oh, it is. I came out of it just after making a video on existential horror films, and I included Jackie in there because even though it's kind of like a biopic and it's based on true events, it is like a psychological horror film when you watch that because you watch this woman go through such a traumatic event.
Yeah, Natalie Portman in this movie is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, like
She's just
on the same level as she was in Black Swan.
yeah, like the way she moves and walks, she's exactly like Jackie. There's like a little bit. They have what's the video that they show of her showing off the White House, and I had seen that years ago, and it was the exact same person walking down the hall.
Yeah.
Like she embodied Jackie.
Yeah.
So she was incredible.
The reason why it's at number 10, even though I think it's brilliant, is I think it's a little bit too long. You could cut maybe like 15 minutes out of it and it would possibly flow better. So definitely check out Jackie if you are looking for that. But it's very heavy. It's very heavy.
I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get to your top 10s. So Kev, yours was War on Everyone. And
I want to throw this out here because I think we need to clarify something. When we did our first episode, it was a rush job because I think we were like planning to set this up like let's just sit down and do an episode.
Yeah.
And I think we rushed it, as in that we just done a quick list out that what we could think of off the top of our heads, and we hadn't seen a lot of films, and I think now we regret that because at the end of the year we're doing a new or
Kev, there's no excuses.
But anyway, you can slate us. Go ahead.
Okay, so right, War on Everyone. It's on a list.
It's not
but it's not the top list. Now you're not actually alone for liking that film because one of our friends, Alan, he absolutely loved that film and he was the one that suggested us to go and see it.
I hated this movie with a passion.
Oh, like at the start of it, when they're chasing
when
the mime
gets knocked down.
that
was funny, and I was like really into it.
I burst out laughing at that and I was like, oh, okay, great, so this is what it's going to be like. Little did I know that was the first and the last time I was going to laugh throughout it. Because I just thought that it like confused wit with snarky sarcasm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I kind of thought from start to finish it was trying to be like Pulp Fiction in terms of that, like the characters are talking about nothing but they're actually talking about something.
Yeah.
Like in Pulp Fiction where they're talking about like, fast food chains and all that kind of stuff.
But they were really like setting up their characters.
Yeah, and
I just
well,
thought the
not only that, but
characters-
it's entertaining to listen to.
Characters themselves are just not. I
just
just
kinda
didn't
dicks.
like them. I hated
Yeah,
them.
like they try and do the same thing, and I just thought. Now, Michael Pena,
Yeah.
I didn't see Ant-Man when it first came out. People were going on and on and on about him,
he's in it.
and I actually forgot. I forgot that he was in End of Watch, which is a brilliant film. But every single time I saw Michael Pena in something, he was so that kind of sarcastic. Just the dude's a nightmare,
I
you
haven't
know.
even seen it. What's the one that he was in? Another cop one.
Chips.
Yeah.
It does not look
Oh
good.
yeah,
No.
he's looking like he's playing the exact same character again.
Yeah.
Except like lower down the ranks.
Way lower.
What did you see in Warren, everyone?
Oh, I'm trying to remember it. I don't know. I went against my will. Yeah, I didn't want to
You didn't
see
wanna
that.
go see
No,
it, and I
that's
wanted
the
to go
funny
see
thing.
it.
I did not want to see that, and I think it's my thing with films is I think depending on the time of day, when I go at night and it just be late, and then I've no expectations for that film, so I think it surprised me, as in it wasn't as bad as I thought.
I solely went for the reason that Alexander Skarsgård.
I have a weird sense of humor, I guess, for certain comedies. Like I think
Like, I don't know,
I
so
react to
it-
things that most people probably wouldn't react to, and I don't know why. I just found that style of comedy funny.
Yeah, we had a good
I
crack
thought
as
it was
well.
just over the top, and it is a ridiculous film. And I think
Fucking stupid.
I just, in that sense, I just let that go, and I don't know, I just enjoyed it for all
Yeah.
the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I guarantee it would not make my top 10 list.
Oh, it definitely.
Again.
I like genuinely until Patrick mentioned it, completely forgot that we talked about.
Yeah,
it.
same. I was like, what was on my list? Logan.
I remember Logan and I remember Baywatch, and that's it. That's all I remember on my list.
Well,
I can't believe I put Baywatch on my
Even
list.
I.
Well, yeah, it's on both. Yeah, which brings us
On
to
his it's a
Baywatch.
bit
It's your
higher
number
than
10.
mine.
Yeah, yours is higher, Kev.
It's number 8,
Um,
is it?
8 probably. Yeah.
That's your number 8. It's Stokes number 10. Now,
Oh, God.
Baywatch should not be
On the top
on
20.
any top 10 list.
This
Am
is
I
weird.
saying it's the worst film ever? No, I'm not. Because you know what? For the first half of that film, I actually did enjoy it. I was laughing at it, and the best joke in the film is the little Mitch. You know, the little statue of the Rock in the fish tank.
Yeah.
I laughed
That'd
at
be
that.
great.
Laughed at that every single time. But that film, it's like it's 2 hours long. You know, like
Yeah,
that.
it's a bit too long,
The
man.
Baywatch movie should be 80 minutes at a push. You know, it should come and go before you've
I
even
think,
noticed that it's there.
We just had an incredible crowd.
I
We went to
think
see
so.
it
I
premiere.
think that's the issue where top 10 it was weird.
And
And
like-
we seen these films all within the same period of time, and they were fresh in our heads.
Yeah.
And we went to see the premiere in the Savoy.
Like with Baywatch,
And
yeah, man.
The crowd. I know you said it didn't work for you. With what was that film you said you're on with the crowd?
Oh
Girls
yeah,
Trip.
Girls Trip. Yeah.
But the crowd just made this, because I did see Baywatch after I did this episode second time, and it just was not as funny. And I was like, why did I think this was a
Yeah.
lot
Like
funnier?
like the crowd, like it set the tone.
And then, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you'd know, so Stobie's laugh and the chap, Kev, Stobie worked with a chap, they were beside each other, and they have these laughs
yeah,
that
if we
just,
laugh, everybody laughs.
like, overshadows everyone else's laugh, and everybody was laughing at their laughs.
Yeah.
And I think we were more laughing at them, laughing at ridiculous things on the screen
Yeah.
that made you think you actually
There
were
was-
enjoying this film more
It
than you
also
were.
helped that there was an open bar afterwards.
Yeah.
so
And then
looking
Joe
forward to that.
Daddy did this like fucking creepy
Yeah, that's what
video.
made Baywatch
Some
good.
chap immediately after that video ended went, that was a load of bollocks.
Yeah,
Just
this is probably
pissed
why
his guy.
Baywatch was so much more highly rated for us, because they did that stupid.
When he said that, I
parody.
broke. I was
And
just like,
It's
yes.
everything you expect an Irish parody of Baywatch to be, and it was,
It was cringy.
atrocious.
Yeah, it was
So when
so
Baywatch
funny.
actually came on, you're like, ha, that's funny.
It lowered our expectations
Yeah.
just enough.
So then we get on to number 9. Now, I do have a question about this, okay? So your number 9 was Beauty and the Beast, and I'm not arguing that at all, because that's in my top 10 as well.
Pretty good.
A 5.
But you give it a 5 out of 10. Now, if that's your opinion, Beauty and the Beast 5 out of 10, that's absolutely fine. Why is it number 9 in your top 10 if it's a 5? And
I know.
if Beauty and the Beast is a 5 and it's number 9, is Warren Everett a 3 or a 4?
We realised we mixed it up, because originally we were just going to go, right, top 10. And then for some reason we decided to also rate it.
Yeah.
And then I think we forgot that, and we were rating it differently. And I think we were just on the spot kind of going, I'll give it 5 out of 10. Just, it was a bad we
Yeah.
never really thought it through. So that's
Did
why
the
the
nerves
list...
get to you, Kev?
Oh yeah, terrible. That's why the list is fucked up and it's rated weird. But I don't think I'd probably rate Beauty and the Beast a lot higher now. I'd probably just give it a 7. But
I think I gave it like.
oh,
a
as I
7
did,
or
I
8.
did say in that episode, I never really grew up with Beauty and the Beast. Like
Whereas I watched it every single
wasn't
day.
a
That's what we
huge
did.
fan of it. Like so, when this came out, I wasn't going in there being all nostalgic the way Stobie was, who
Yeah.
absolutely
It
loved
was
this
like
film.
rewatching it again.
But I think I did
Yeah.
hit on. I appreciate people would react to it differently to me and probably would rate it
That's
a
what it was
lot
kind of
higher.
made for, though. But it was still kind of made as a good film to watch. Like even if you didn't.
Oh yeah,
Honestly,
I really
took that far.
enjoyed it. Like
Yeah.
it was a good film. Like I don't like wouldn't be something I'd rewatch multiple
Like
times.
it's not like
but,
changing opinions. Of
what did you
today's
think of it,
film,
Patrick?
first of all.
I put it on the exact same spot, number 9.
Yeah, I
Um,
loved it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it as well.
I thought the inclusion of the beast song and everything
Yeah,
was
it would.
perfect.
It added to it.
That's the best part of the film.
And I loved how that he was able to read, and they were able to kind of like bond over that rather than
Just being.
What
like
did you
Yeah.
think of Emma Watson?
I really liked her. I
Yeah,
thought
she
she did
got a
a
bit
great job.
flack. I thought she was very good. in
They
it.
started like giving out saying that she was auto-tuned, and I never got that at all.
Yeah, well, someone said that to me. I was serving them, and I had seen it like twice at this stage.
Yeah.
I was like, really? And then I watched it again, because of course I went to watch it again.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I can kind of get it with the first note she sings, because like that
Yeah.
has to be like bang on. But like throughout the film, it's
But
not
I
really-
never.
No,
She's not a singer. Like she's not.
She's
Yeah.
an actress, like,
She
yeah.
went and got voice or like singing lessons when she was cast as Belle. So obviously it's not going to be.
yeah,
It's funny how they cast someone as Belle, and I was like, can you sing? She's like, yeah, of course.
yeah. I didn't notice it, so it didn't bother me at all. With Beauty and the Beast, the reason why it's so low,
We listened to that song recently on vinyl, and I didn't.
it sounds grand,
Yeah.
yeah. But they could have redone it.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
yeah, the reason why it's like number 9 on the list is because I did give it a 9 out of 10, and that's because all the way through, up until the Be Our Guest sequence, I was like, this is good, this is good, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
And especially with the build up to when you first see the Beast in the cartoon, it's done way better.
Yeah.
Like when you see
definitely.
him,
It's
it's
scarier.
scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, for a cartoon that's that old to be scarier than a live action film, I thought was kind of disappointing. Especially when you see him at the top of the stairs and he's on all fours, and the way he moves is so much more intimidating. So that was the one kind of drawback to it, where I was like, okay, the first act was handled better in the animated film
Yeah,
than it was in this one. But from Be Our Guest onwards, I thought Be Our Guest was spectacular. I really did. Like, I was just blown away. Like, I actually remember we were sitting beside you, and as soon as it was over, I was just like,
Yeah.
whoa, that was brilliant. And it just kind of got better from there on for me. Like, I really did like it. But again, it was that opening act that kind of brought it down a bit. And then your number 9 is Their Finest. Now, I didn't see it, but
I
that's
didn't
like
see
the
that
first film of 2 films this year about Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
was that
feel
about
it was
Dunkirk?
a better story than Dunkirk, because you can actually like you relate to everybody in the movie.
Yeah, which
It's
is
more
complete
of a
opposite of
character.
what happens in
Yeah.
Dunkirk.
Whereas Dunkirk is more of a spectacle based film
Yeah.
than a character based film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that one. I did want to see that one. Again, you're
It's
number 8.
definitely like it's a really sweet story, and it's really like I really enjoyed it, and it was good to see
Yeah.
Bill Nye kind of playing an old man with
Yeah.
I want to be young again.
Yeah, no, because I do like the cast in that film. Bill Nye is great. Oh yeah, actually, Bill Nye is showing up in a new film coming out next month or 2 called The Limehouse Golem.
I've seen, and he's supposed to, like
Yeah.
it looks like a vampire movie and
Like a
gothic
detective kind of thing. Yeah, it looks great. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, we got postcards in for it. Cool.
We talked about your number 8, which is Baywatch. Now, your number 8 is Dog's Purpose.
Like-
right? You know?
What the hell?
I don't feel as bad now.
Listen, that movie, my dog died like this year, so that movie made me cry for like the first 20 minutes. So that's why I think highly of it. Like, I was making jokes after about like the fucking after he changed dog. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like
He
it got
changed
to the,
dogs 3 times.
You know?
the bit where he turned, like, you know, the one where he's the cop dog.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
that guy is lonely and alone, and then he dies.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened to the guy?
Yeah, that's
He
what
got away.
like, I thought that film was so horribly misguided. Like, when the dog starts his first life, he's on a nice little family farm, and then that kind of goes to shit because his best friend goes away, and then he's reincarnated as a canine unit dog. And the guy who owns that dog,
He's
He's
severely
depressed.
depressed.
he's like an alcoholic, he's suicidal. It's so dark,
So
and you're like,
obviously that
this
makes-
is a talking dog movie. Like, this suicide and alcoholism has no place in this movie. And yeah, as you said, when the dog dies, he's still alone, and he's still an alcoholic, and he's probably
like the bit-
still
And
suicidal.
hang on, the next family.
He unites her with someone. I was like, should that
Yeah,
not have
but
been the
also
Yeah.
concept of
she
it?
killed him by overfeeding
Yeah,
him.
the poor dog dies of diabetes, which is
Yeah.
also a terrible thing. And then he comes back as a dog that starts off as abandoned, like he's sold from a
That's
cardboard
a
box.
sad. Like, that's
That
really
one was
sad.
atrocious. Like
Yeah.
his
That was made
tiny-
even worse for me because their house number is my house number. So I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and his fourth life is basically
Shit.
chained to a tree outside, while 2 junkies don't look after him, and you're like, Jesus H.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this from a talking dog movie. And then obviously, you know, he somehow ends up back in the farm towards the end. And I
needed
absolutely
to get that Dennis Quaid in.
yeah, like that moment with Dennis Quaid where, you know, he bends down to pick up the ball and the dog like hops over his back like he used to when he was a puppy. And you know,
Like
Dennis
20 years ago.
Quaid's initial reaction isn't, "Oh, you know that trick too." It's, "Sparky, is that you? Come back all these years? You know
I'm
what?"
in a movie.
At that point, I was like, "Fuck off! This is insane." And because you know we work in the cinema. Did you get people asking for the wrong movie?
Yeah.
I had
I
people,
had a Doggo's Promise.
A Doggo's Promise. I had people coming in looking for A Dog's Promise.
A Dog's Purpose.
Dog's Purpose. Oh.
People answer the wrong movie all the time, though, to be fair.
Someone came up because it was
Minions.
recently.
Despicable Me 3.
Yeah, always.
The Conjuring, that really
I
irritates
was like,
me.
you mean The Conjuring?
Yeah.
Batman. You mean Spider-Man?
Yeah.
The new superhero film. Do you mean Logan?
We get to number 7. Hold on, what was my number 8?
I don't even know what I put on me.
Just remember Logan and Bear.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
One no one.
My number 8 was Manchester by the Sea.
Didn't get to see
Film I
that,
missed
yeah.
most of the
Oh,
Oscars.
I think that's
Um,
what I was saying, Joe. I didn't get to see a few of these ones.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, see, these ones, that's why I think the end of December and all through January is like the most irritating time of the year because all the Oscar films come out in the
they
one
come
week.
out in a
Very
big dump. That's
Yeah.
what I find at that time. I can't get
Like
to see
once
those kind
January
of
Yeah.
films, so
hits,
then
yeah.
I'm going off the kind of, I guess, crappy ones.
Yeah.
The best of a worst bunch.
But Manchester by the Sea really is a brilliant film, and it's not the kind of film that I usually go for. But I
Is that
remember,
the one with Ben Affleck's brother? Or
Yeah.
yes,
yeah.
Casey.
We went to go see that as part, you know, the Screen Unseen that
Yeah.
Odeon do.
Yeah, that was in December.
It was in December, and we thought that it was going to be Assassin's Creed because that was out on the 1st of
Thank
January.
God it wasn't.
In hindsight, yeah.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I'm very grateful. But we went in and they were like, no, it's Manchester by the Sea. And I had heard of it. I knew it existed, but I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know anything about it. And when it came on, I was like, oh, Manchester by the Sea. I was like, is this about football or something? But thank God it wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Thank God it wasn't, and it's genuinely brilliant. It's one of those films. It's one of the darkest films I've ever seen in terms of subject matter, but it's also hilarious from
How
start
they
to finish.
deal with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it deals with grief, and it is really, really sad. Like his brother passes away, but
Well, a lot more happens.
I
mean,
know that. I don't want to give it away.
Oh, I know. No. Without giving anything away, there is a scene where if this happened in any other film, your jaw would hit the floor because it's that shocking. And it should be devastating. And it kind of is for a split second until the film gives you its biggest laugh, like a couple of seconds later. It's a very weird film, but, you know, it's a kind of testament to how well it was made that it can pull that off. Going into number 7, I think mine was Moonlight.
Yeah.
Moonlight's
I
my
think
number 7.
Moonlight would have been on my list. If
Yeah,
I'd
I
seen
think
it.
it would be.
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah.
Just see anything you do in those months.
Yeah, Moonlight really is an amazing
I've heard
film.
amazing things about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely excellent. Its script is fantastic, and it's split into kind of 3 different stories, 3 different stages of this boy's life. And people, you know, were talking about it, you know, like the fact that it deals with, you know, a man who's gay and, you know, how important that is and all that. I think that kind of misses the point
Yeah.
because him being gay isn't important.
No, it doesn't like.
You know?
He still has a journey regardless.
Yeah.
of what
Yeah,
he takes.
because
Exactly.
that kind of you know, connotation with the film, you know, it kind of leads you to believe it's like, oh well, maybe do you have to be gay to get the full kind of emotional resonance to it? And that is not true at all. Like the film is not. It's obviously it's about being gay, but the point of it is being yourself. And the environment that he grows up in is a very harsh, unforgiving environment where if you are gay, you would be more worried about coming out like that because you don't know how other people are going to react.
Yeah.
It's
It's
got,
more of a hazard. Though.
yeah, it's got nothing to do with being ashamed of who you are. It's being afraid of how other people are going to react and how they're going to treat you afterwards. But it is told so beautifully, and the cinematography. I actually haven't seen a film that looks like it before. When I think of Moonlight, you know the poster that kind of had that neon-y kind of poster. It doesn't remind me of neon, but purple and that kind of, you know, turquoise, blue, green. That is the color of the film, and it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
And I don't know how they did it, but the 3 actors that they got to play the same guy they actually look like the same person.
You believe it, yeah. You
When
believe
you get
it,
to
you
the
feel
third
it.
story, when he's in what, like his 20s,
Yeah.
he undergoes a complete transformation in terms of his body. But when you look at his face, you can actually see that it's the same person in there. And how they cast those three actors, I have no idea. But you know, Mahershala Ali and Janelle Monáe
Fantastic.
are absolutely brilliant in the film. And then Naomi Harris she's kind of like the one element of the film that I think, you know, stands out for a bunch of different reasons. One, she's really good, but then everyone in the film is really good. But her sections, don't they almost take on like a cerebral kind of like a really dark horror-y element
they do.
kind of
Because when she's obviously addicted to drugs and stuff like that, but there's one scene where she's yelling at him, and it's really sad when you're watching it, like because like the sound cuts out and you can't hear anything, and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, and it kind of plays around with time and the way, you know, in which you observe the scene. It's excellent. But your number 7s were Sleepless, which I haven't seen,
I also have not seen it.
and Kong Skull Island.
Oh, stove.
Now I'm
like
not actually.
monster
I'm gonna be. I'm
movies.
not
I love
ashamed
monster
of
movies.
Sleepless on that list. Now I don't know if it'd make it my top 10 again, but I'm not ashamed that I put it on at that time because I actually thought I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
thought
think
it
you
was
came
a
into work and told
very
me about
good
it, yeah.
film. Like I don't know if you would feel the same way when you see it, but I thought it was a great film.
Yeah, maybe it's just because
But
like
you.
this is the King Kong movie that I
Listen,
wanted.
we're off to see Shin Godzilla after this. Like,
Oh,
so
100%.
we love monster movies, but that, like, not on our top 10.
Like I wouldn't like the acting is shit. Like the people are shit. But like
Yeah.
I wanted to see that movie.
But why did that guy go off and kill himself? Like, he just, all of a sudden, they're all running away.
Oh, the fellow with the grenades.
Yeah, and then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna kill myself. I can't.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't care. I went to see that movie to see Godzilla, or not Godzilla, King Kong fight helicopters and then fight giant monsters, and I was not disappointed. And I also seen it in Leicester Square, so maybe that enhanced my experience of it. But like, I wasn't he smashed the right things for me.
You know, there were so many moments in King Kong. A lot of people don't like Peter Jackson's King Kong.
I don't know. I think it's fantastic.
I love Peter
I think
Jackson's
it's a
King
good
Kong.
way to like. They remade the first one, and I don't think anyone could have done a better job.
No.
But I mean, in this Kong, you know what? The moment for me that kind of sums it up how I feel about it. There were so many what the fuck moments, and the biggest one was when I think it's Toby Kebbell is kind of taking cover from all the madness that's going on, and he's by a lake. And the way I look at King Kong in this film, I don't look at him as being like a king just because he's, you know, big and ferocious. He's like a hall monitor.
Yeah, he is.
Because he
He just
doesn't.
kind of like walks around.
He
and,
just
like,
he just wanders around Skull Island, and when he sees shit that he doesn't like, he just
Smashes it.
beats the fuck out of it. like this. I would love to know like what the writers were thinking. You know, it's like, okay, so Toby Kebbell's by a lake, and then King Kong walks along, and he stops for a drink. You're like, okay, all right. And then he sees something in the water, and it's a giant squid, and he just starts beating the shit out of it. And then he walks off. End scene. You're like,
With the
what?
octopus.
Like, who came up with
Yeah.
that idea? And that is what King Kong is into this entire film. Because in the 2005 and the 1933 King Kong is in as much danger as anything else on that island. Everything is so ferocious that if he's not careful, he could be killed. So he's in a constant state of survival mode. But in
This one is just ambling along.
yeah, in this, like, nothing stands a chance. Like, he's so big, and that he just kind of walks along, and he's like, don't like that, and he just beats the shit out of it.
Yeah.
He's like, don't like that either, and just beats the shit out of it. And he's just, and when he's done beating the shit out of that octopus, he just goes, okay, like, just puts his hands back in his pockets and wanders off. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
So, Kong Skull Island, I was like, what? Now, 6, you've got Split. Which isn't it's not on my top 10 or anything like that, but I did enjoy Split. I thought Split was good.
I can't wait for my one because I remember what my one is now.
Triple X.
Stop.
Return of Sander Cage. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen this film, but I
You
feel
don't
like
need to,
I
trust
don't
me.
have to.
Yeah, no. If you see Fast and Furious at all,
Yeah, I've seen the original Triple X, and I've seen
it.
Ice Cube Triple X. How In God's green earth is that number 6 in your top
And you
10?
can't just say you enjoyed it. Like,
Oh no, I'll totally justify it. Triple X, the reason I like it is I went to go see the premiere of it again in Cineworld, and I was with my uncle, and for me, Triple X, like the original Triple X, that's my, like the original Fast and Furious, they were my, when I was kind of like 11, 12, they were like my action movies, they were the action movies that I'd watch on repeat constantly. So when Vin Diesel said, I'm going to make another Triple X movie, I was like, oh cool, I'll be able to relive the kind of childhood like joy that I got from watching the original. And then that's, for me, that's what this was. It was I got to relive part of my childhood, and then there was lots of beautiful people smashing shit. So
See, the original.
but you're one from Orange is the New Black. I can't.
Ruby
never
Rose.
I
know.
can't stand her.
I don't
know
like
what it
her
is.
at all.
I was just like, no.
Well, she features in another film coming up on this
John
list.
Wick.
Yeah. But,
Please stop putting her in
now,
the
see,
movies.
the original Triple X is a bit like Sin City. When you're a kid, it is the best shit
Have you
ever.
seen it? I haven't seen it.
Oh, have you not seen Triple X?
No.
Oh, stop.
Well, I mean,
think
you're
nostalgia
21, so you'd
has-
hate it. You know, rewind time when you're 7.
I watched a bit of it a few weeks ago and I absolutely hated it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
no, it was
I'll
on the
watch
TV, and it was like halfway towards the end, and I was like, wow, this is a dumb action.
Yeah, it is one of those movies that you.
But
you
I
must
liked it
watch
as
when
a
you're
kid, but
Yeah,
then when I
yeah.
watched it a few weeks ago, I was just like, this is terrible.
yeah. When it starts off and Rammstein are singing Firefly and all
Yeah.
that, it's pretty cool. But nowadays not so much.
Yeah.
My number 6 was Silence.
Oh my god, Silence is incredible.
Did I see Silence?
Silence is the one I told you about, was about the
No.
priests that went to Japan.
I
Oh
didn't
my
see it.
god,
It
it was
was
incredible.
Beautiful. Like I don't know if you've seen The Last Temptation of Christ.
No.
Okay.
And
well,
that's not the Mel Gibson
No,
one.
no,
That's
no.
Martin
Patrick
Scorsese's.
Christ,
He kind of does the same thing where it goes through Jesus' life when he's like getting older and stuff like that, and then they did the same with this, and it's just
It was incredible.
Silence is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I was I was shaken with tears by the end of the film.
Mhm.
It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
just incredible.
Like that parallel between Silence and The Last Temptation, like they both end at very dramatically intense moments. Obviously,
Yeah.
Temptation of Christ being Jesus' crucifixion, and this one is when he stamps on basically the face of God.
Yeah, and he like breaks down. Like he completely just.
Yeah, like it is like it's one of those films where like it's an epic and it covers the vast majority of somebody's life, and like what you're saying there, the way they both end at the very end of somebody's life.
yeah.
There was such a power behind it, and the cinematography.
No,
I have
like,
to say.
that mixed with the score, like the score mixed Japanese music
Yeah.
and elements into music, and I just thought it was.
And it's
amazing.
very subtle. Like you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Obviously, the film's called Silence, so it wouldn't make much sense if the score was
a
like
lot of-
booming.
Yeah.
But it is there, and you do notice it. And the cinematography is like so classical
Yeah.
in the way the shots are composed. It does remind you of Akira Kurosawa's, cinema, like Seven Samurai and all that kind of stuff. It just it has influences from the cinema where the country
It's from.
where like the cinema that originates from Japan is just it is very locked down when the camera doesn't move much, but when it does you really notice it, and Silence completely understands that. But when you started doing your top 10, you had your honorable mentions. You put Hacksaw Ridge and Patriots Day in there, and I'm not going to complain about that. But Silence, you didn't because you hadn't seen it, but you put Silence in your honorable mentions.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, did
I listened to it this morning, so I remember.
Now, Silence is in the honorable mentions. I just want to repeat. Dog's Purpose is number 8.
and I clearly have a higher opinion of Silence than.
Obviously.
This is obviously our last episode of Quite.
No, I think like when we were doing this top 10 list, it was like
It was badly
films
done.
people would see. Like Silence is an incredible film.
Yeah.
But I seen it in the cinema.
I
with
think
3
we
people.
were more focusing, I guess, mainstream.
Yeah,
Would that be
like
fair
the
to
main,
say?
yeah, instead of
What
like
everyone, do you know,
incredible
that
films.
Yeah, yeah.
average film fan would go see, not like an actual film
Like cinephile,
fan.
yeah.
Oh, see, yeah, like, and I get that. I don't buy into the whole, because I'm into movies that I only pay attention to art house cinema. The vast majority of the time when I go to the IFI to see one of those films, I'm fucking bored to tears. You know,
Yeah.
but I mean, Silence is an art house cinema. It's just because it was made by Scorsese. Logan has elements of art house in it. War of the Planet of the Apes has
absolutely.
elements of art house in it. So I love, especially genre cinema. Like, for me to say that Kong Skull Island is in my bottom films of the year, like, that really breaks my heart, because I have
You
watched
wanted it to be good.
Oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
King Kong was like my favorite film ever. When that came out, I was 10, and I'd never seen anything like it before. And then before that, it was Godzilla in 1998, and one of
Yeah.
my, still to this day, one of my favorite. Godzilla 98, I have loads of time for it. Loads of people say that film is shit. No, it's not. And I still love Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's still one of my favorite films ever. So I built my love of cinema on monster movies, on classical Universal monster movies. And Alien, the original 1979 Alien, is one of my favorite films of all time. And to say that Alien Covenant and Kong Skull Island are as bad as they are, it really does. Like, if you were to rewind time when I was 10, and you said that in 2017 we're getting a new Alien film and a new Kong film, and they're connected to a new Alien reboot series and a new Godzilla reboot series where King Kong is going to fight Godzilla, and they're going to remake all the classical Universal monster movies like The Mummy, Dracula, Wolfenstein.
God, that was so upsetting.
And it's all going to be in a big connected shared universe. I would have had a stroke with excitement, and now I'm just depressed when I see it. You're just like, oh Jesus, no. And I don't know. It is sad for me to say it, because I love that kind of stuff. Genre cinema is my thing, like, first and foremost. And I don't know. Maybe it's just like, when I'm getting older, I look at films like Silence, and like Silence is like, on another level above these things. But am I going to compare Silence to Beauty and the Beast? No, not really, because they're two completely different things.
Yeah.
Just in the same way as you compare something like Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled.
Yeah.
That's a great movie, but is it better than, say, something like Guardians of the Galaxy? In my opinion, it is.
Yeah.
But
they're not comparable.
you can't
like,
compare them.
I love Lord of the Rings and I love Shawshank Redemption, but I
they're
can't
different
differentiate with
films.
them. Like, it's like I love them both for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if someone's gonna go, oh no, but Shawshank, and I'm like, I respect that if someone says that's better, but I can't really say one's better and one's not. It's just I love them both for different reasons.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
So you get number 5 here for both of you was Fast and Furious 8.
That's also linked to my childhood. Before we go anywhere.
yeah, I don't know why I liked him.
I genuinely don't know either. It's just I get some sort of like childish glee when they smash it into shit, or they like The Rock says something and then hits someone. I'm good. The Rock is my kid, my childhood fucking wrestler. The Vin Diesel is my childhood action hero. And it's good to see them fucking hitting things. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't be on a top 10 list, but
but it's
and
definitely
that high up,
it's close to my heart in that it just reminds me of a better time.
Like, I don't completely hate the Fast and Furious films. Like, I watched Fast and Furious 7 after I went to see 8.
And you liked
And
it, didn't you?
I actually did really like it. And it definitely has something the Fast and Furious 8 is missing. And
It's missing that heart, I think.
well, actually, what I think I really liked about 7 is that everyone in that film took it seriously, with the exception of
Tyrese.
no, the director,
Oh dear.
James Wan, because
Well, to be fair, they said to him, "Do you want to direct the 7th movie in the Fast and Furious franchise?" And he went, "How much?"
But I think it works to be, a quality in the film, because Fast and Furious 8, everyone's taking it so seriously, and I know that's kind of the point, where they take it so serious even though it's ridiculous. But James Wan did certain things in Fast and Furious 7, like we were in the heat of a car chase, and you can hear the roar of the engine and everything. The music's kicked up to 11, and then he'll like pull the camera way back out, and you can hear what's like actually going on, and it'll go from like to just, and I laughed every single time, and that was that kind of sense of humor that he had throughout that film. It was like, I know everyone here is taking it seriously, but I'm not, and that doesn't mean that he's not doing a good job. And then even the action sequences, like that fight between Paul Walker and, I'm just going to say, the ninja dude,
That's pretty accurate.
when he tackles him into a door, and then the door busts off its hinges and starts sliding down the stairs. That was class, because I could tell that it was done. It looked done practically.
Yeah.
I could tell the two dudes are actually sliding down a staircase, and I really do like to see that. There's nothing worse than when you can tell that everything was just created in a computer
It's
because
just two guys fighting on a green set.
I can just tell that it's not real. So then there's no stakes there. You know, when you see Tom Hardy flip upside down and his head is like, 3 inches away from the ground in Mad Max Fury Road, I feel that because you're like, Jesus, like I know he could actually die at any moment. What did I have as my number 5? I think
Probably something a lot better than Fast and Furious.
Raw.
Oh no, I couldn't.
Which is
I walked in on the scene where they're having sex with paint, and I was just like, I'm okay.
I didn't go see that because everyone kept telling me not to.
Oh, I love
And I was
it.
Well,
like,
I'm here to tell you that you should.
Alright.
It's Julia Ducournau's first film. She's a French director, and this film is spectacular. Like, when I'm talking about modern horror films, Raw is one of the best modern horror films. Because I came out of it, and it's hard. It's not that it's confusing, but it is so bizarre from start to finish. It's like you look at certain shots, and you're like, why did that happen? I don't know. But it's a bit
That's
like
exactly what I felt when I walked in.
like
I was like, oh okay.
but see, when you get into kind of films that you're supposed to interpret, take The Tree of Life for example, Terrence Malick's Tree of Life.
Yeah, it's so confusing unless you like peel it.
I
You have to peel it.
I just didn't know what was going on in that film because
Wait, hold on. Is Tree of Life the one with Tom Hanks or is it the one with Hugh Jackman?
it's the one with Brad Pitt
That's
and
the
Sean
one.
Penn.
Okay.
Now, like-
so we know where we are.
that's a film where 1 minute you're watching the birth of the cosmos and the universe, and then the next minute you're watching Sean Penn wander around a beach, and then it'll cut to a dinosaur wandering around the forest, and then it'll cut to Brad Pitt like beating the shit out of his kids, and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to say to me, and it just kind of came across as being extremely pretentious. Whereas you get a film like Raw, and I know what it's about. So you've got that anchor point to kind of hang on to. Like, once I know what this is about, everything else that comes at me, even if it might not make immediate sense, now that I know what it's about, I can process that shot that might not make sense immediately with that information. And it's the same thing with Antichrist. I know what Antichrist is about. It's about grief. It's about losing your child and then feeling the guilt for being partly responsible for that incident. So, like, I don't know. Have you seen Antichrist?
No.
Okay, well, mad shit happens in that film. Absolutely mad shit. You need to see it. It's one of my favourites. But, like, there's a bit in that where they're wandering through the forest and there's, like, a fox. And she, like, peels back the leaves, and the fox, like, turns around.
The fox.
Well, I wouldn't put it past it, the stuff that happens in that film. But the fox, like, slowly turns around and looks up at her, and then this really deep voice comes out of its throat, and it says, "Chaos reigns." Why does the fox speak? I don't know. But, and I'm not going to pretend that I know, because I don't. But because I have that anchor point, I have something to hang on to, and I know that it was there for a reason, and Raw is definitely one of those films. It's one of those movies that if you go in expecting a normal film, you're going to come in and be like, what the fuck did I just witness? But if you go in there knowing that you're going to have to process a lot of imagery that might not make immediate sense, it is a really, really special experience.
Is Raw, now don't stop me if I'm wrong, is Raw about the discovery of sexuality, or is it...
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like... Imagine if, David Cronenberg made a coming-of-age story. It's about going to college and finding yourself, but in a very, very
weird way.
twisted way. Yeah. So definitely check that one out. Now, number 4...
I know what my last 4 are.
It's always John Wick.
Yeah. My number 4 was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Kev, that was your
Number
second
two.
one.
Oh no, I said that it was good, but Marvel is just kind of adding to the frames now at this stage.
Not quite as good as The Return of Xander Cage. But Guardians is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Because, what was the... Oh, yeah. We were joking before going into it, because I saw the reviews for Guardians come out, and they were by no means bad, but they were certainly worse than the first one.
Yeah. Because, like, this time people had something to expect.
I loved it. I
expectations.
just found it hilarious throughout, and I love
Slap
Batista
Kurt
in it.
Russell is like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
saw some reviews where I was like, oh, is this
Now,
not going to be as good?
You're not a wrestling fan, are you?
No, no.
Right, so what do you... No, that's fine. But
Everything
what did you
Kevin
think
is
of...
based
Because David Batista, because people have that, like, oh, he's a wrestler.
Hmm.
They won't give him
I
a chance.
love him in
He's
this.
brilliant.
I thought he's excellent.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He has that character nailed down perfectly,
Yeah.
and you can tell that it's not just like I mean, if you're playing the Hulk,
It's not a comic.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
anyone could do that. Now, I'm
Well,
not saying
Ed
that Mark
Norton.
Ruffalo isn't doing a good
Well,
job
you'd say
because he's playing Bruce
Batista
Banner.
was the Hulk, you go, oh, big juice kind of head, kind of like...
Yeah. But you know, Drax actually has something to do, and he does have to convey emotion. I think one of the most beautiful scenes, and I genuinely do feel that you know, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a beautiful movie. I think there's true, proper emotional moments in that film. One of the best bits is when he's reminiscing about the lakes on his
Yeah,
home
his
world, and
daughter
he's talking
and
about his
stuff.
daughter, and then you don't see the emotion on his face, but when Mantis touches his arm, she immediately starts
Yeah.
crying. And without doing anything, you can actually see that pain in his face, and it's all just locked away inside. And it's a brilliant it's a brilliant performance without
Yeah,
doing
he probably
much.
gets the biggest laughs as well.
Yeah, he's hilarious in
Yeah.
it. But we were going into that film, and you know, when I saw the initial reviews, I was like, right, okay, it's not supposed to be as good as the first film. We were joking, saying, oh, could you imagine if Guardians is like this year's X-Men Apocalypse?
Oh, Jesus.
Because nobody liked X-Men Apocalypse apart from us.
Yeah.
I liked seeing Weapon
I
X.
liked
I
it.
really liked it.
Apocalypse.
I thought it was
I
great.
loved
I
it.
really did. Like, because it got
I'm a
like,
sucker for the X-Men film though.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
it got like 50-odd%, and I was like, ooh, this could actually be, you know, a bad movie. And I came out of it and I was like, I don't know what everyone is talking about. Like, it.
I really liked it.
If you told me to pick that film apart, I could go on for about 5 hours picking out all the things that, you know, either don't make sense. But it's one of those films that I found so enjoyable that I just didn't care. And we were going in joking, saying, oh, what if Guardians of the Galaxy was like this year's X-Men Apocalypse, where people were saying X-Men Apocalypse was shit, and we came out as, that's like an 8 out of 10. And then, you know, Guardians is apparently like, you know, a 7 to an 8 out of 10, but we consider it to be like one of the best of all time. And it actually happened. Like, I came out and I was like, that I would put that in my top 5 superhero films of all time. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And you've mentioned already the role that Yondu plays in this film, and it's such an
Beautiful.
increased role.
Yeah.
But my favourite part of the whole film is Kurt Russell and the way in which it uses the music. The soundtrack is used better this time.
Yeah.
Whether you think the soundtrack is better than the last one or not, like, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but the way in which the music is incorporated into the film, I think, is
Like
done
it was
better
made
this time.
for the movie.
Yeah, like
I like the way I never thought I'd get a monologue from Kurt Russell. where
Kurt
he's
Russell made our top 10
Oh,
twice.
which is excellent. Yeah, because you know he that scene where he's reciting the lines to Brandy, it's amazing because that song sums up the whole
whole film,
backstory. You know,
Yeah.
with what happened between him and his mother and all that, and it, like, when he's saying, you know, Brandy, you're a fine girl, what a good wife you would be. That I was sitting there, I was like, Jesus Christ, did Quentin Tarantino come in and start directing a couple of scenes of Guardians of the Galaxy?
This is what you need to do.
Because this is so cool. I think Guardians Volume 2 is excellent, and it is much better than the first film. And I think
Yeah.
part of the reason why so many people were saying, oh no, it's not as good as the first one, is because they haven't rewatched it since they saw it. Because when I first saw the trailers for Guardians, I know you immediately liked it. I thought it looked like shite. And then we went to see it, and I was completely blown away by how brilliant it was. It's like, not only was that not bad, but it's the best film that Marvel have done so far. And then when I rewatched it before going to see this one, I was like, yep, still it's just as good as I remember it being. And then I went to see Volume 2, and it's so much better.
Yeah.
But I think it was that element of surprise where people were saying, all right, let's go see Guardians of the Galaxy. And then they were so amazed by how brilliant it was.
That they were expecting the spark again.
Well, it's kind of elevated their judgment of the film beyond what it actually is. If they went
Yeah.
back and they rewatched the first one before
Yeah.
going
I
to see the
think-
second one, it would be a
I
different
said that I hadn't
outcome.
seen the first one since I originally
Yeah, I
seen
think-
the first time, and I didn't get a chance to watch it before seeing the second one. But I think, as you said, if I rewatched the first one as well,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'd prefer it or
Mm.
say it's on par.
Like,
Yeah.
for me, like, Marvel brings out so many movies that I just like can't rewatch them anymore. I just like every time I go to try. And
I have no
rewatch
problem
them,
rewatching them. It's just finding the time to rewatch because
Yeah,
it's
there's,
so.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
almost there's like at least 30 hours of movies to watch. like including all of the
Yeah.
like behind the scenes and then like
Yeah, when
the
they bring out a
extra
new one, you're kind of
short
like, I'd
films.
love to rewatch them all, the build
Yeah.
up to this.
Nobody
but
has the
just
time
don't
for
have
that.
No.
Like I would
Nobody.
like to do it before Infinity War, but I just know we
Yeah,
won't.
it's,
Yeah.
I just
And
can't.
in Guardians Volume 2, the final, well, it's not the final shot because the final shot is actually Rocket crying, but the second to last shot where they have the Ravager funeral,
I
they're
love
setting up
that.
the fires,
That was
and it
beautiful, yeah.
formed the
And
arrow,
the
Yondu's
song.
arrow. That is very similar to the final shot in your number one film of the year, which was Logan, in terms of using a symbol.
The symbol, yeah.
And I don't want to get into it yet because I want to wait until we start talking about Logan because I do want to talk about that scene a lot. But that the Yondu's arrow appearing, it really does hit you emotionally, and
I
it
love
resonated
I
so
think it's
well.
called Father and Son.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
Cat
It's
Stevens
just
or-
perfect.
Yeah, it's
Like,
perfect.
Shazam,
Yeah.
everyone
It was absolutely perfect. I have to remember now what I put at my number. Actually, so you put Beauty and the Beast
because
as your number
Yeah.
4, so
Oh,
you
it's
really
John
liked
Wick,
it.
is it?
John Wick, yeah.
John Wick was a
Maybe it should be higher, but
I
that's a guilty pleasure for me. I get people don't like Keanu Reeves or that film, but and I'm not even a big Keanu Reeves fan,
Yeah.
but I don't know what it is with John Wick. It's one of those cheesy kind of, I guess, action films that I just get.
just does
a
it for
kick
me.
out.
The choreography.
Yeah, I
is really,
love.
like,
I do
Yeah.
love the choreography. I know I've seen the first one with Joe and Matty, and they hated it. I think they liked certain aspects of it. I think they liked the choreograph as well. But like, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe I wouldn't put it up as high again if I didn't know the list. But I'm not ashamed to say I actually like that film.
Yeah,
I liked the opening to John Wick 2.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's the movie Fast and Furious should have been.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, now we have to say we haven't seen John
It's no
Wick
dog's
1.
purpose, but
Listen.
We haven't seen John Wick 1, but going into John Wick 2, when it started, that opening 15 minutes.
It's interesting that you'd see the second one before the first one.
I said,
Yeah.
I think I said it in the podcast that I was at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my mate was like, "You haven't seen John Wick?"
Yeah, I wonder if that would change our mind when you see the first one. Then would
Yeah.
it make you appreciate the second one more?
Because it's like grander scale, but
Or
it's still
you might get where we come from, like we're coming off the first one, I guess, of enjoying the first one, so we
Yeah.
kind of take that into the second
Yeah.
one.
Like the opening of John Wick, I loved. I absolutely loved it. All that stuff with the cars was excellent. It really was. I was blown away. I was like, this is going to be class. And then when the title screen came up, I was like, fucking hell. I was like,
Yeah.
how have we gone this long without John Wick in my life? And then it surged up at the very top, and then it just kind of like dropped down and stayed at this deadpan state for the rest of the film, because like there was moments where I was genuinely bored, but even the choreography, like the choreography is good, and the way it was shot and all those wide shots was great. But I noticed that he was doing the same move over and over and over.
Chest head.
It was that the chest head thing. He was doing that a lot, but then he would also tackle someone, get them to the ground, and then use their gun to shoot some other dude. And I'm like, right, you've done that about 10 times now. And it got to the point where, you know, another action scene would start, and I was like, okay, grab the dude, tackle him to the ground, use his gun, shoot the other guy. Yeah, there we go. On to the next one. And it was like, it just became so repetitive for me. Yet the ending was great.
Oh, it reminded me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It was like Invasion of the Body Snatchers when like they all just kind of stop and start
and
looking at
staring
him.
at him, yeah.
And I thought that was really, really cool. I did like that a lot, but I just
Also,
thought,
who is funding these assassins if they're fucking everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
like even the homeless people are assassins. Is it just a world of assassins? And his wife was the only one that wasn't an assassin. His wife and his dog, but his dog's getting there.
Don't ruin it.
And then Kev, your number 3 was Wonder Woman. Did you like Wonder Woman that much?
Probably
like it
go
that
back
much,
on
but
it
I
now
liked
to
it.
put it number 3. I was very fond of it when I saw it.
Yeah.
But I guarantee it wouldn't be that high
I was
this
kind
time
of
around.
let down, but for the final act, like where they go all CGI and like Remus
Yeah,
Lupin's old
I
man
agree. Like thinking back on, like I hated towards the end that battle.
But, like,
just
like
it's
so
too,
I had watched it
when we were talking
review
about
of it,
special
so-
effects and all that was just
Yeah.
so that part was so fake.
That's
looking.
kind of like DC's thing though.
That
is shitty
I love.
CGI.
I think I loved the start of the film more than the end. I thought like the opening to it was pretty great.
like her
and then
journey to the battlefield.
it was very kind
brilliant.
of. I always compare it to kind of Captain America.
Yeah.
That vibe of
It
it,
has a
and then
shield.
they kind of towards the end pull you out of that, and it's like a different film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Wonder Woman didn't actually click into place until they get to London. and it was that scene where the all the generals are sitting around in the room and they're making the decisions, and he basically says, you know, that's what soldiers do, they die, and she kind of rips into him. From that moment onwards, I was like, she's actually really good.
Yeah,
she's actually really good. And Chris Pine is really good. And then all of a sudden I was just like, oh, I actually do really like this now, all of a sudden. And the kind of ragtag team that comes along with them, like you and Brenner, and that was really good.
You know the way they have Chief and he's like Native American?
Yeah.
But that's not like a joke or like it's the most important part of his character is that he's Native American. It's just a part of his character. He is. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
And then I agree with what you're saying about the final act. I don't think it fell apart because the chemistry between her and Chris Pine was so good that the emotional connection between the two of them really did pay off towards the end with the plane, and you know,
just a little bit more effort. The bad guy would have been good.
Are you excited for Justice League?
No.
I don't think anybody is excited for Justice League.
We're gonna go see it definitely.
I feel like horror in a standalone film is great.
Yeah.
Horror in Justice League.
Like
gonna kind of maybe
I like seeing
it.
Jason Momoa finally being a star instead of like the guy I know from Stargate Atlantis. But I don't think like people expect. I think they expect him to be like the comedy.
I don't want to go off topic here. I was just watching something. I think it was actually Screen Junkies. I seen a clip of it. They were talking about a Harley Quinn versus Joker movie now. There's rumors.
That could actually be really cool.
Yeah.
With Jared Leto.
It doesn't set up, like their relationship isn't really set up that way.
Apparently it's supposed to be them facing each other now.
Like in Suicide
and
Squad,
Joker's supposed to kill her or something, but I don't know.
That would be like cinematic suicide if they're like, you know, the character that people like, you're gonna shoot her in the head.
Yeah, and do you know who's going to be left alive at the end of it? The character no one likes. The bit for me in Wonder Woman that was like the defining moment in that film is, you know, I was conscious of the fact that the film wasn't showing me her in the Wonder Woman outfit for the whole thing. She was wearing the fur coat, and it's only when she steps up out of that trench and that she takes the coat off.
Symbol of
when she came up out of that trench, I went, now that's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she was brilliant.
It was absolutely brilliant. It really was brilliant. And I think that's what kind of won me over in the film at the end, is that there's bits of it that I didn't like, but the bits that I liked outweighed them.
Yeah.
So it kind of ends up being like a 7 leaning into an 8 for me, but it does have, you know, serious problems. Its villains are terrible. It has moments of terrible CGI, terrible green screen, and, you know, it's being hailed as one of the best superhero films of all time. No, it's not. And the moments that I really like in it don't seem to be the moments that
maybe
other
the best
people
DC.
like. Oh, by a mile, yeah. Of the new ones.
That's Wonder Woman's only problem is, unfortunately, it was made by fucking Warner Brothers, and they can't make superhero movies for some reason.
Well, another fantastic scene in Wonder Woman is when they're in that small town after they've kind of taken it over, and she like decimates that church, which is brilliant. But the best part of that section of the film is when they're dancing in the snow outside the tavern. I loved all of that. I genuinely did. I loved all of that stuff.
The scenes where the director was allowed to make the film, they were really, really good.
Yeah.
The
just
scenes
kind of let her do it.
We need more lasers. You need to make more lasery stuff happen. I'm like, no.
My number 3 was La La Land.
And I don't actually know why La La Land's not on my list, because
you love that. I didn't see it. You're always going on about it.
Triple X is on it. So.
Yeah. See, look, La La Land is like 2 hours of pure joy for me. And obviously it's about movies and all that kind of stuff, so of course it's going to be...
The tap dancing scene with them, and it's just like, I was like, I really wish I was watching Singing in the Rain, or even if, like, why can I not think of his name? Not Fred Astaire, but Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly. Like, I really wish he was alive to see a film in 2017 with their tap dancing, where actors had to tap dance.
Having said that, he'd probably be horrified by La La Land. Their steps aren't accurate enough. Because that's what everyone seemed to like.
He can't dance.
Bitch and moan about that film. I was like, Jesus Christ, these are missing the point here. Did you not see the bit where she sung in the audition? But La La Land, I think if you're passionate about anything, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be movies or music. If you're passionate about anything, that's what La La Land is about.
That's what I was about to say. That's why I think I loved it so much, that it was marketed as like, it's for people like the dreamers of the world. So I thought that, I just loved it so much.
And I think the reason why I liked it so much is during that audition scene when she's singing that song, "Here's to the fools who dream." What I love about that, the fools who dream, is because, you know, especially with something that, like, you know, we want to get into, like in terms of movies and stuff like that, there is no set path that you can go down.
There's no progression.
No, and there's no guarantee either. Like, you don't definitely know that you're going to get paid. You don't definitely know that you're going to have work the next week. Yeah. And that's a very scary and worrying thing. And it's one of those things where you have to prove yourself to be good enough to get a job. You can't just get a qualification and then go straight into it. It doesn't work like that. So you are, on some level, kind of stupid to want to pursue a career in that, because what if it doesn't work out? Yeah. What are you going to have if it doesn't work out?
It's more about living the dream than paying the bills.
That film, yeah. And it's, you know, it's kind of like throwing caution to the wind and saying, well, this is worth it, and I may as well try, because if I don't try, I know it's never going to happen. Yeah. And that's what I thought was so beautiful about that film is, you know, not knowing what's going to happen, but you love something so much that you almost don't care about the possible consequences. So I put La La Land at number 3, and then right, we're getting into the top 2 now.
2 goes Guardians, I think, for me.
Your number 2 is Guardians.
Yeah, for some reason I put Live by Night there.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
No,
I've heard that it's meant to be very boring. Our friend Alan went
It's pretty boring.
and he left halfway through.
I feel like I wanted to put The Accountant, but The Accountant was like last year. And I was running on an accountant high when I seen this movie, and I was like, oh, he's shooting guns. He's doing an accent. I like this. But now I'm like, I wouldn't watch it again, I don't think.
But it's your number 2.
Yeah. My number 2, as of June, like fucking 2-3 months ago.
Now, your tied number 1 was Logan.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that at all, because that was my number 1 as well for a while. My number 2 was Logan. I won't go into it again because we already talked about that.
It definitely would make my top 10, whether it be number 1, 2, or 3. By the end of the
there.
year, I don't know, but it will make top 10. I know.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Like,
It's absolutely brilliant. My number 1 is The Handmaiden.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's a South Korean film. Park Chan-wook directed it. So it's from the director of Old Boy, if you've ever seen Old Boy.
That's the one with the pig head. Am I thinking of a different film?
You're thinking of it.
I'm thinking of a different film.
Have you ever seen Old Boy?
I haven't seen the original, but I am planning to watch it.
I've seen
the
film,
remake one.
Okay.
I didn't like the remake one, even though I didn't see the original.
The remake is a disaster. Yeah. I've seen the original Old Boy like 6 or 7 times, and I didn't know what was going on in the remake. And I know that story. So, you know, that's, you know, strike 1. But in Old Boy, it's about a man who's kidnapped and he's in prison for 15 years. And then after the 15 years, he's let out, and he meets the man who captured him. And he basically says, he hands him a gun, and he says, you can kill me right now, or you can play this game with me, and you've got, I think it's like 3 to 5 days, I think it's like 5 days, you've got 5 days to figure out why I imprisoned you. But if you kill me now, you'll never know. And it follows those days where he has to figure out what happened to him. And that film destroys you.
Yeah, there's a moment in the film, and Patrick showed this to me before he went to see The Handmaid. I think he just wanted me to watch it because you love the director, and like your jaw just drops. Like it's shocking.
You're like Luke Skywalker in
No.
you know, The Empire Strikes Back.
That's
impossible. But that's what you're like. It is like properly soul shaking.
But The Handmaiden is incredible.
The Handmaiden's better.
Yeah.
And Old Boy was always one of my favourite films of all time, and The Handmaiden is even better. The difference is between Old Boy and The Handmaiden is I can't tell you anything that happens in it. You just need to watch it. It's coming out on Blu-ray this month in 2 different versions. You can get the standard version, or you can get the special edition. Now, we went to see the director's cut, which is the special edition on Blu-ray. Go see the director's cut. It's 3 hours long. But it is worth it.
It doesn't even feel like 3 hours though.
No.
Yeah. And stuff just keeps happening. And everything just makes sense by the end of it.
Yeah. You can't say a single thing that happens in this film because right from the start, like, you know the way films, you know, like, oh, you'll never guess the twist. Yeah. This film is like a slinky. It doesn't stop twisting the whole way through. So you're talking like, oh, you're never going to guess the twist. It's like, yeah, unless you can guess this twist in the next 5 minutes coming, and then it's going to be another 2 minutes. It is mind-boggling what happens in The Handmaiden. You absolutely have to see it. It's unbelievable. But the director's cut is a full half an hour longer than the normal version, and I know the difference between the two because we were talking to one of our friends who went to see the normal version,
And you were talking about things, and you was like, "What?"
and I was like,
Yeah.
so what did they take out of it? Because I don't know what you could lose from the story.
Yeah.
And then we figured it out, and I was like, no way. Like, it completely reshapes the film, but the director's cut is the one you need to see. Yeah, and then my honourable mentions were Lady Macbeth and The Love Witch. We went to see
Lady Macbeth. Yeah, both of them were actually for the Eddie Dublin Film Festival. And
Probably why I don't know what they are.
no, and then Lady Macbeth was released April,
I think it was, yeah.
and The Love Witch was released on DVD on Blu-ray in April as well, I think, and they're incredible. You just have to check them out.
Yeah, definitely go see them. Lady Macbeth has nothing to do with Macbeth, but when you see the film, you'll understand why she has that name.
Yeah,
Because
Very
she's an
harsh
absolute weapon.
woman. Little wagon.
But The Love Witch is like an ode to like Hammer horror films from the 60s and 70s. The whole film is shot to look like Technicolor, and every so often like a mobile phone will pop up that'll remind you that it's not made in that time, but other than that it is like spot on. You know when you get certain films and it's like Machete or whatever, and it's like, let's pretend this film was made in the 70s when we all know it wasn't made in the 70s. This film actually looks like it could have been made in like 1968. Definitely go see The Love Witch. It's really, really good. Now, the last issue. Wanted to...
I feel like we're getting a list of grievances from the studio. You didn't like our film? Hang on now.
You got the dishonorable mentions. Now, so far there was... you mentioned Split, and then both of you mentioned Ghost in the Shell, and then you mentioned Get Out, and you didn't agree with that. So that's fine, because... you know,
No, he mentioned Get Out. I like Get Out.
I didn't hate Get Out. I just don't think it's as good as people are saying.
I just have a
Yeah,
problem.
I agree. Now, the one that I have to take issue with is The Girl with All the Gifts on two levels. One, that came out in 2016, so...
Did it?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
this year.
Jesus, that's how much it...
But
didn't
so
really look
prepared.
But two, The Girl with All the Gifts is excellent, and I
I
don't
know
know
you love that.
I don't know
Told me that
how.
when you seen it.
I do not know how you had the reaction to it.
I think, as I said, sometimes I don't like going to see films at night. Certain films, I prefer to go see maybe comedies or stupid films. Because when I go to see films
You're
like
tired.
that,
Yeah.
I'm not in the right mindset, and I think that's my issue with certain. I think I seen that
Yeah,
at a
'cause I
bad
think-
time, so I came out going,
Yeah.
oh.
When we left,
Yeah, I was
it was
wrecked,
like-
and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I had the mentality to sit there and watch that kind of film and be awake to it. You know?
Yeah, 'cause I think I had a higher opinion of it when we were leaving.
But even if I didn't watch it again, I did really love the production of it, the production design and everything. That was
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, because
Well-
the point I wanted to make was that it had a budget of £4 million. That was it.
Incredible.
And it
What they
made
accomplished.
a convincing apocalyptic vision of the world. Like all those buildings that you saw covered in vines and all that was all
28
CG.
days later.
That was all CG, and that was made on a budget of £4 million. And Baywatch couldn't make realistic fire with $69 million. So
Hey, fake fire is expensive.
that's why I think The Girl with All the Gifts, like, you know, I'm not even just saying this in terms of like a, I'm into film, so I like this kind of stuff. It's like, no, being able to make that film with £4 million is a tremendous feat. And I thought all the acting in it was fantastic. But the one thing to kind of take away from The Girl with All the Gifts is the score. The score was completely ignored, but that has one of the best soundtracks of the past few years. I think probably the best soundtracks of the past couple of years I'd give to Girl with All the Gifts, Jackie, Silence, and Dunkirk probably.
Did what did you think of Get Out?
You know what? I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I liked it to a point.
I don't understand the
And then I
whole
was-
hype of it.
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah.
I think
that's why I put it on my list, because everyone was
Yeah.
going on know the way people are on Facebook. Oh, it's amazing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
did I miss something? Because I didn't think it was that good.
Yeah.
I
we
think
were
the hype
saying-
has like a lot rooted in like American culture, the way like it's a black-leaded film directed by a black man that did really, really, really well. Like.
Yeah, no, I agree that's the reason for
Problem
it.
as well, I went in seeing that people tell, like, I didn't know much about it, and people tell me, oh, it's a horror. So I'm going in with the mindset,
so it's going to be scary.
This isn't like a horror.
It's a thriller. Like.
So then you're kind of disappointed in that sense, because I thought I was going to see a horror, and then it's not a horror. So
I think people don't know what thrillers are.
Yeah, people
seem it's a horror.
Yeah, no, they don't understand.
And if you kind of ignore the racial elements to it for a sec, it is kind of like a horror comedy thriller thing. Now on the comedy levels, I think it's excellent. Your man who plays the TSA officer is hilarious. He was by far my favorite part of the film. And actually, I thought if the whole film was based around him, I would have come out of it and said that was brilliant, because it's the idea that, you know, the amount of slasher films that you watch where the person is like talking to their friend on the phone if they're like babysitting someone in a house or whatever, and like, you know, they're clearly being murdered, but the friend is none the wiser. Imagine making a film that's all about the friend, and they're just at home chilling, and every so often they're getting a call and they're sitting there like, is something weird going? Like, that could have been really funny.
I do like the end scene where he pulls up in the police car and his friend just
the terror was real for me for that bit. It was like, he's gonna get shot.
The one thing that annoyed me was that he was able to get Childish Gambino. What's the song that they
Redbone.
I love that song so much, and they just didn't use it properly.
No, just kind of like stuck at the start.
Yeah, and then when it cut to the title, but like saying who directed it and stuff like that, wasn't it just kind of like this horror-y kind of music that they just stuck over that as well? So it was
kind of like a whispery chant kind of thing.
Yeah.
With Get Out, I thought it was, you know, it was very successful on the comedy front, but on the horror thriller front, first of all, I was never scared.
No.
Not once. And second of all, if it's like a thriller that you're supposed to, like, you know, keep guessing, I knew exactly what was happening. And I'm terrible for guessing that kind of stuff. Like, the worst thing you can do is say to me, oh, you'll never guess the twist. Because
you'll never
it's not even now I'm going to be sitting there the whole time trying to guess the twist. It's just I am aware that there is a twist that's going to eventually come. I am stupid when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I never guess them. I just don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I'm just stupid when it comes to that.
That's what I like to. Like, I could try guess it, but I'd much rather like
but,
the film now.
You know, with Get Out, you're trying to. It's one of those things where I knew what was happening, and when I was sitting there and I was like, right, I think I know what's going on here, and if I'm right, then that doesn't make sense. And it was, you know, obviously that they're somehow putting the spirits of the white people into the black people. And then we know that they're doing like brain transplant surgery or whatever. And I was right. And I was like, okay, well, I knew that was happening. So one, I'm not surprised. And now I'm just annoyed because it doesn't make any sense now that I know that. Because you find out that the two servants, so the maid who works in the house, and then the gardener who works outside, you find out that is the grandmother and the grandfather who kind of like started the whole thing. And you're like, okay, so if those are white people trapped in, or like, you know, in black people's bodies, and they're in on the whole thing, why do they give it away to your man? Because
I think it was like the implication is that the people are like they're home, but they're like not driving, but sometimes they get like little bits. They can kind of do a little.
Yeah, but why does your one wander around the house at night? And why does I know they said your man like tries to relive his sprinting days, but why does he do it at 2:00 in the morning?
Yeah.
And you get that scene where he wanders over.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to hide it, but it's like you wouldn't think anything if he did it during the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if he just put on a tracksuit and went running, you'd be like, okay, he's just training.
Groundskeeper runs.
Yeah, if you're wearing your groundskeeper clothes and you're doing it at 3 a.m, it's like, all right, something's up. But it's that scene where he goes over to him as he's chopping the wood, and he goes over to him, and at this point he doesn't know that he's been hypnotized. He has his suspicions, but he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to your man as he's cutting the wood and he says, oh, you were in there for a good while last night. So he basically tells him that he was hypnotized. And I'm like, but if you're in on this... What are you telling him for?
As far as I remember, I didn't like that scene where she hypnotized him. It felt like she did it so easily.
Yeah.
I was like, slap the fucking cup out of her goddamn hands.
She just started talking and then she was just like, you're under. And he's like, oh, I'm under. And I was just like, really?
And what was the other bit that
To be fair, she
noticed?
hypnotizes people so that they can get their brains extracted.
And where she laughs, the black woman, the grandmother, where she just does that really creepy laugh, and I was like, are you trying to make them?
Yeah.
Like, think there's something going on here.
And you've got the opening scene as well, where you see your man being abducted, and you're like, well, if you just need black people for your plan, and you're already kidnapping them, why are you getting your daughter to go through this overly convoluted and overly involved plot to go out with them for months and to get to know them and then go away? And
I think it causes less damage to the quote
I know.
specimen.
I found her character weird.
It becomes so like it becomes so unbelievable when you hear that though, because when you see the box that she has full of the photographs of all the other guys, I'm like, okay, so she's done this like 10 times.
Why would she keep them? Like,
no, but how long has she been going out?
Under, like, they're serial killers,
but like, I get like she's obviously, that's the twist that you don't want to guess that she's in on it.
Yeah.
But I found like it was just sudden, like she's a completely different person. Like you didn't get hints of it throughout the film.
She like
or
tied
something.
her hair up. She was
like I don't know. I just
yeah.
right up till she has the keys and she can't find it, and then suddenly she's just like, oh, I'm awake and I'm a different person.
Yeah. But see, that was the thing. It was like, you know, I just thought, out of all of these guys that you brought back to your house, not one of them knew the address of the house they were going to.
Is where loads of people were missing.
Like, if they were talking to their friend or talking to their brother or their mother or their father, and they were like, you know, so where are you going? Oh, we're just going up to, you know, whatever. You'd give the address.
This house with all this crazy white people.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't believe that so many people went missing in the same house, and no one has went, you know what, maybe we should go up there and see if they're still around. I just thought the film was, you know, deeply flawed. I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's okay.
I think I watched another podcast, is Double Toasted, and
oh, that's great.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But I watched their review of Get Out the other day, and they're like, yeah, white people are gonna have a different experience in this movie. Like I think the point they made, that was like black people, like they've had those situations.
Yeah.
They've been in those situations.
Well, yeah, towards the start where they get pulled over. And you think it's about race.
He's like, no, I can give him my ID. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, she's obviously like, no, but you shouldn't have to because you've done nothing wrong.
It's like, yeah, but you're white. You don't understand.
Yeah, I found that kind of stuff effective. But the reason why I said to just ignore the racial stuff is because I didn't actually find it to be that integral to the plot. Yeah, at the very end, because I was kind of wondering, I was like, but why black people?
That's what I said. I think I said in the podcast I was talking about how at first I thought it was a film just about race, because they're black. Yeah. But it turns out no, they think they're kind of superior, I guess. And they want to, so it wasn't about that. So it was
about how black people are better.
But
than
like
white people.
to me, I was confused at that. That's what I was like. But could there not be equally like white people who are just as good as well? It seems like why is it just?
I think it
black
was
people?
based. Yeah, it was based more on like the grandfather being like a fucking nut job that like seen a race in the Olympics one time and was like, oh yeah, black people are the best.
But it would change the tone, I guess, if it was they weren't going after black people. They would say they were just
just good people,
talented,
like
I guess,
talented
white
athletic
people.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of, I guess, a different film, I guess, or as you said, how black people would watch it.
Yeah, I think because that was like added to the dread, because like I think the younger Corey from Double Toasted was like, he was at a party with white people and he was just like, when are these people gonna start killing me? Like, yeah,
the scene with the chap that they have there, the old woman it's her husband, but he acts like our boyfriend, you know.
Yeah.
That was, and when the phone flashes
Get
and all,
out.
he obviously wakes up from like that hypnotism.
Yeah. The other like main positive I had with the film is Daniel Kaluuya's performance is amazing.
Yeah,
he's
brilliant.
He's really, really excellent in the film. And see, that's the thing. Like, I know Jordan Peele has been doing comedy his entire life, but it was those like moments with the TSA officer. I was like, it is the best part of the film.
Did you think of the family's brother? He was just a bit of a weirdo.
I didn't like him. He was the worst.
He has one of those.
I
think Patrick said it earlier. Like, he has a punchable face. Like some people just have punchable faces.
He actually just seemed racist. Like,
like that was the bit for me where I was like, okay, no, like this scene is bad. And his performance is bad.
That guy
like it's so over the top. Like, I know no one can see me, but when he comes in and he sits down at the table and he like lifts his hands up over his head and he's like spinning them around as he's talking. I'm like, I get you're supposed to be a weirdo, but like this isn't like
he's
fucking
like
Scooby Doo
the
here.
cross stick for like a good far too long.
Yeah.
I just feel like you take him out, it would not make any difference.
No,
to
it
the
wouldn't.
film.
No.
It'd probably improve it. Like,
He
Yeah.
didn't need to be there, and then wasn't he there at the end when he's like playing guitar?
Well, no, he's spinning around the mop or something like
yeah,
that.
he
He's
had
not
that
doing
relevance
wrestling across
because
stick
he,
again.
Yeah.
he ends up getting killed so easily anyway. Like there was not
He just
really
gets
importance to
battered,
him.
Yeah, I thought he was so over the top.
Yeah, he was.
The
And
thing that really weirded me out is like he essentially kidnaps black people for a living.
I think
or people in general for a
at
living.
one time I got a
could not-
sense from him that he was almost jealous of his sister being with black people. Like there was some weird incest thing going on where he actually had a thing for
I think
his
it's
sister.
just that he's jealous that she's a better serial killer than he is.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe.
Or she can bring more
Just
back
round-
than him.
he just fucking rounds up people in a station wagon where she like manipulates them and then like horrifies them before she essentially sends them to the slaughter.
But yeah, that was the main thing. Like with the top 10 lists, I had to
At that hour and a half.
I had to get that out there.
That's fair.
We'll do
Chris
another
is
one at
like-
the end of the year.
Yeah, because I was conscious I only had to do it from January through to June. If I was doing that now, just even, you know, at the beginning of August, I'd already have one or two other films that I would put in there. We were talking about Sing Street earlier as being an excellent Irish film. It's probably my favourite Irish film. But we went to see
Michael.
Frank Berry's Michael Inside.
Oh no way!
Yeah, that was the premiere that we got invited to from Odeon, and that's what they showed in the Lighthouse, and he was there as well. But it was just great. Like
Did he blank you? I don't remember who he is.
he came over to us and everything, so he was really nice, and he remembered my name.
I hope so. You were there for 3 years.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I thought that, you know, I Used to Live Here was good. I don't have any, like, you know, main
Is
issues.
it? Sorry,
with the
I
film.
can't remember Frank saying it was. Is it a documentary or a film?
No, it's a feature
Yeah,
film.
no, it's similar to his very first one. It's done in that same kind of style, but this one, we just loved it.
Yeah. Like, I Used to Live Here is a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I felt with this one, he had, like, such a strong command over what he was making. Like, his skill and his craft has improved so much just from film 1 to film 2, and it is truly brilliant. I mean, I'm not saying that just because, you know, he was my teacher. I wouldn't say anything if I didn't think that. It's absolutely excellent.
Like when you think about it, as far as I'm aware, he only has 3. The Ballymun Lullaby.
Yeah.
I Used to Live Here, and now this one.
Yeah,
So
and
like
this one's
that is
fantastic.
a fair way to come between those.
Yeah.
Oh
3.
yeah.
And I just think, you know, not to kind of like, you know, put other films down by praising this one, but there are other Irish films that will come out this year and have already come out this year that will get a lot more attention based on their subject matter. Films like, you know, Cardboard Gangsters and all that. Now, I haven't seen Cardboard Gangsters, but it's just the kind of thing. It has that subject matter that
It is
gets more
very
people.
good, but I know what you're saying. That will just get a lot more light
Yeah,
put on it than
and,
probably Frank's will.
You know, because a gangster film set in Darndale is a more commercial premise than a story about, you know, a young kid from Tala who goes to prison.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like, people need to see this film. It's amazing.
Was do you know if he had any funding or did he do it himself again?
I think he did. I think it was Irish Film Board helped fund it.
Because when he was making...
He probably wouldn't have got that much so often.
I don't know how much he got, but I know when he was making I Used to Live Here, he didn't get any money from them. And then it was only during the post-production stage that they gave him money, and they actually apologised to him for not giving him any money in the first place.
I know it because it's a feature film. Is it actors or is it real people? That
It's
have been-
actors, just actually the same. Remember, you went to see I Used to
Yeah,
Live
yeah.
Here. Another little boy that's in it is him, and he's been working with him since he was 12. So but he was brilliant in this movie.
Yeah.
Saying
Absolutely
his last one I Used to Live Here, he went to a community and had just people come in that weren't actors.
Yeah.
Just to be people.
Yeah, no.
And, like, there isn't a single scene in this film that isn't, like, fully authentic.
Like, you feel sick to your stomach in some of the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, your nerves are gone throughout the whole thing, and
Like, I finished working on a video just yesterday that I made called Existential Horror, and it's about a subgenre of horror where I talk about horror as a word and how it creates a very specific preconception in your mind of what the film is going to be. You expect to see certain things, you expect to feel a certain way, and that's how people come out of films like Raw and The Witch and say that was terrible. When I think people's expectations of horror should change, because it doesn't matter whether it made you jump or whether it made you scream or whether you actually saw something that came out and you know, went bugger bugger. Were you scared when you were watching it? Like, did the anticipation scare you? And existential horror is all circumstance based. You're supposed to relate to it on a mundane level. And like examples of that would be, say, like, have you ever seen Eden Lake?
I think I have yours.
When they first get to the lake and the other teenagers are there, you immediately feel that intimidation. That would be existential horror. That's before it, you know, delves into the torture stuff later on.
But, you know, check out the video on www.youtube.com/
What do we know?
Yeah.
Do we even have our own domain name?
No, we don't know.
No, we don't. Just type in what do we know and look for the pink and yellow question mark. But
because I was entertained that
There'll
of,
definitely
like,
be
dark
links anyway,
films.
I think.
Like, you ever seen Mean Creek?
yes.
That's kind of a dark film, but you wouldn't class it horror, but it has a real dark tone to it.
Yeah. It's all about being in a real life circumstance that would just terrify you, and that's what Michael Inside is. Like, your stomach is in knots for the whole thing, and you just imagine like that couldn't be me, you know.
Do you know, like, if it's being released again?
I have a feeling
Would it get
that
a cinnamon run?
I don't know what
Cinnamon
it's
run?
cinnamon.
They might get it in the IFI.
I think
I
that
have
it's going to be
maybe,
not till next year. I think it might show up in a couple of film festivals because it's only
Yeah.
doing the rounds now. So I say it will be next year by the time we
Yeah.
like
I'd
it
say
actually
get
gets
limited
released.
release as well.
I say
maybe.
so.
Because it won Best Irish Film at the Galway Film Fleadh, and now he's submitting it to European festivals. So I'd say you're right. It's going to go through
I think
them
it's going
this
to
year.
show at the Audi Dublin Film Festival
Yeah,
next year in
hope
March.
so.
So
So they might get it maybe IFC? Not IFC.
IFI.
IFC and IFI, yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
That's pretty much it.
It's good to have you. Well, thank you everybody for listening. There'll be links, of course, to what we know in our YouTube description, as well as if you give us a like and a subscribe, that'd be wonderful. And we'll see you next week again.